check this out. So this next man that is getting ready to come up here, I actually prospected him from a competitor. A very large competitor online. Most of you would probably know his name. And this guy was running his entire shit, okay? But more than anything that caught my attention was the way that he coached, okay? And what I mean by that is I have never seen a man love humanity as much as this man does, okay? And I'm just being honest, like, there's a lot of coaches in here. Right here for my team, he coaches over 30 people. And I can honestly say every single person on our team is a better man or woman because of this guy right here that's getting ready to come up here. He is so amazing, absolutely amazing. And I've been talking with him, trying to get him to come up with something for you students for a while now. And money doesn't drive this guy, okay? So it has been one of those things in which I'm like trying to come up with new ways in which to get him to do something that I need him to do. And I've came to the realization that putting all of you in front of him and saying they need love was the only way to get them to fucking move. He was like, oh, human beings need love. Okay, I'll do it. And so I was like, all right, cool, we'll do it. I'm like, what do you want to name this company? Guess what he named it? Amori. Can you fucking believe that? Amori Sales. And so, love sales. Okay, so this man is going to get up here. He's going to teach you guys something fucking amazing. And then he's going to give you guys an offer that no students ever had that will change your life forever, just like it's changed mine and all of my fucking coaches' lives. Okay? And so with that, Mr. Steve Smarters, get up here. Let's go. Love you, dude.
It's always nice to get on stage with tears in your eyes. So easy. All right. So one thing that I love doing is this. And I just, like when you think about the context of this week and where we're at, and like it's Saturday afternoon on a beautiful day, you guys could really be doing anything right now. And instead, you're here. And you're thinking about the life that you want and how that's going to play out. And you're focused on getting what you want. And I just think that's so cool. Because you could be doing anything. Like you could be playing video games, you could be taking a nap, you could be like eating a sandwich. Okay, I guess we can also eat a sandwich. Two of those three were good examples. So, but the point that I get at is that like this is a really, really special group. And to just be a part and for you guys to provide me with your attention, it's not something that I take lightly. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. And also like congratulations to yourselves for being here. And I would love if everybody could just take a second. We don't need to clap, but it's just like, just sit with the fact that like you're here, you're improving your life, you're putting your life in your own hands. And like, that's just so dope. Like so cool. And so like, congratulations to each and every one of you for coming here today. So I have slides this time. And I literally had to Google. I was like, what makes a good slideshow? So bear with me is what I'm saying. Here's what I'm here to help you do. I'm here to help you make enough money that you can question the meaning of life so that one day you can stand on stage with a rainbow headband and a big smile on your face. That all sound good? Great. So here's what we're going to be covering. Very simple. Who I am, my 9-figure sales philosophy, and how that sales philosophy can and will help you. This is my partner, Allie. We look very similar based off of that photo. Just we're not related, but anyway. So here's my disclaimer. I like to do these at the beginning of every presentation that I do. I'm weird, okay? Like, you looked at me and you're like, that guy's either a personal trainer or a barista, and either way, like, you're probably right. I'm also already sweaty, and I talk fast. So, I've used slides twice before in my life to impress a girl in high school. This is my third time. And the only thing that I learned was this cool thing where you get to add text that you click new slides. So I'm going to abuse that feature a lot, as you can see. And lastly, real quick, who I am is also the disclaimer. So I'm sweaty, I talk fast, and I'm weird. There we go. And when I looked at, like, how do you make slides? It said, start with who you are. And anybody who knows me knows that threw me into an existential crisis. What do you mean, who am I? Who are any of us? What does any of this mean? All right, good. Couple laughs, we're fine. So, moving on. Here's what I've done. I was a personal trainer. I had my own personal training business. I was running that thing in person. I was doing anywhere from like 15 to 20 grand a month in income just from personal training. I did that for about 6 months. On month number 7, it was March of 2020. In Canada, by the way. Oh, yeah. Who booed? Damn. All right. I mean, I agree, but like still. Oh, okay. So then I opened up an online fitness business, because like what else are you gonna do other than watch like Tiger King or whatever it was? And so that online fitness business, within the next 18 months, I did $3.2 million in sales. I took every single sales call. Every single one of them. And so, thanks guys, jeez, yeah. And so my calendar was literally back-to-back all day. Each call slot was booked 14 hours a day, three call slots per half hour. Wow. Yeah. A lot of doing this. So anyway, so that made just pure volume. That helped me get really good at sales very quickly. I also launched a supplement brand on top of that. That really helped with upsells. And then I transitioned to sales and sales management. And so that's when I got hooked up with a company that sold marketing packages. And then from there, I became a business consultant, teaching other people how to run sales teams, how to get better at sales, how to operate their business better. And I did that for 2 years, and that's where I met Josh. And over those 2 years, I consulted 17 companies to 8 figures. So 10 million bucks. I know, yeah. Look, I said the same thing. I was like, oh my God, it's working. Okay, great. They're like, what's your secret? I'm like, be nice to your sales reps. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so I managed 9 sales teams. None of them did less than $5 million annually. And then I had 52 7-figure case studies. And after 52, I just stopped counting. And I was like, oh, I'm only going to focus on the 8-figure, but it probably falls somewhere in between like 60 to 70 if I were to take a guess. So in my 2 years as business consultant, I coached 682 clients. I generated 113 referrals. And my clients did $130 million in sales with activities that I was able to help them produce. So all this to say, something I'm doing is working. Now, here's the problem. Here's the thing. I was like, okay, put it up there, don't laugh. No. I fucking love ChatGPT. All right. Here's the thing. I was not always happy. Like, I wasn't always killing it in business. Like, right before I launched this online personal training business, it was Christmas of 2020. Or somewhere in there. 2019. And I was super broke. Like really broke. Like, I had $120,000 of other people's money and $8,000 of my best friend's money and none of my own money. Like, that kind of broke. And it was Christmas, and I was sad. And this story, everybody has that, the straw that breaks the camel's back moment. And I've never shared this publicly. Like, there's probably a dozen people who know this. And my partner at the time didn't even know this. But I was driving back from Christmas dinner, and when I was at Christmas dinner with my family, I took all my money, so I had $562. And I spent all of it on gifts because like I didn't want to show up empty-handed because I was this dude who had a great business and should have been doing well and whatever. And the $562 that I had on December 21st and then a payment that I was supposed to get on December 24th didn't come through. And so I had no money. And I was driving back home from my parents in my 2004 Toyota Corolla. And I went to pay for gas, and I couldn't afford it. No bank account, all my credit cards were maxed out, bank account was in overdraft, just the whole 9 yards. And I was like, what the hell? What do I do? So I took my credit card points, transferred it to cash. There's a thing in Canada called e-transfer, which is Venmo. So then I Venmo'd the person behind me in the line at the gas station, and I said, I need you to pay for my gas. And it was in that moment that I walked back to the car, and I couldn't tell my partner at the time just like what I had to do, and I couldn't face it, but it was the most miserable moment of just being like, I have $120,000 that I owe to people, $8,000 that I owe to my best friend, and I can't put gas in the most fuel-efficient Japanese piece of crap to ever exist. And it was at that moment where I was like, all right, brother, fix this. So here, what did I do? What did I do about it? I didn't I cried a little bit for like a minute. And I was like, all right, well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write down exactly what I want. I'm gonna write down a plan to get it. And I basically committed to it. Oh, went too far. And so I committed to it. And there's a difference between deciding and committing. I can decide right now to jump off this stage and do 20 jumping jacks, but has anything happened? I can decide to make 10 phone calls, but has anything occurred? No. And so there's a difference between deciding you will do something and committing to doing something. And so in this moment, I decided. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm never going to be broke again. I'm never going to owe anybody money. Never. There's a difference between deciding that and committing to it. And so the commitments that I made were very simple. I gave myself four things, each one of them involving the 4 F's, which I'll talk about in a second. And those things, those habits that I committed to daily, compounded over time. And so just like Sean Kocha was saying yesterday, is that awareness is number 1, accountability is number 2, and with accountability you get consistent action. And when you have consistent action, what do you get? Yeah. And so when you have change and you've defined correctly, you do the things in the right order to get the right outcome. The change that you get is the change that you wanted, rather than the change that occurred on accident. And this is why I just love the fact that you guys take time to review what do you actually want so that things happen on purpose instead of on accident. And so it's like at least if you bring awareness to your behavior, at least if you write things down, at least if you measure things, you can at least look at that and be like, well, this is my reality. And my reality says that I deserve this position that I'm in. And my reality at that time, on Christmas morning with the sad hippie man, was that I deserved to be there. And it was my responsibility to get myself out of it. And the only way that I could do that is by committing to specific daily actions. And it's not magical. Nobody has any secret. The secret is finding reward and doing things that you find rewarding because you're being consistent. And a lot of times that could be like a pat on the back from somebody else, until you can get to the point where a pat on the back from yourself is enough. And so I got to the point where a pat on the back from myself began to matter. And I didn't always have that. And so I want to share with you guys the 4 F's and where I've kind of came from. And so finances, family, fitness, and faith. So with finances, you can see my car on the left. That was my trusty 04 Corolla called Stella. It's actually not what I called her. I called her Lola. Don't tell her that. I don't know. Not important, it's a car. Kind of important to me, though. That was weird. Anyway, so, and then I upgraded to the Tesla. You should have seen the look on these fucking sales guys' face. They're like, this guy's coming in here with a Corolla, and he's upgrading to this? It's like, what do you do? I was like, exactly what you do, except just more of it. And the thing that I realized when I set up my financial goal is it was just the one thing that mattered to me the least. Because like the car is great, and yeah, you floor it, it's super cool, and it's really nice, and it looks like a rocket ship on the inside. That lasts like a day. And then you're like, all right, well, crap, I gotta get it serviced, I gotta bring it here, I gotta do this. And like, honestly, one thing about cars that nobody tells you when you get a nice one, as soon as you sit on the inside, you don't see the outside of the car, which is the nicest fucking part. And so you're just sitting on the inside of the car, you're like, oh, that's over, okay. So I hit my financial goal that I mapped out for myself, and I looked at it and I was like, I felt nothing. I had the nice car, and I was able to, and this ties into my second point, I was able to retire my parents, and I bought their house. And so now their house is in my name. I get all the upside and all the downside of like replacing the fireplace and whatever. But now that I have that, I was able to accomplish that, and that felt a lot better. Like that felt like being useful to somebody else, rather than just like a cool car because somebody on the internet said I should drive fast. But it's like the ability to provide for another person, and especially somebody who's provided for you, that felt really cool. And another thing about like, you'll notice my family, a lot of them are in this room, and Josh and Danelle having taken me like, and just giving me everything that somebody could have in terms of like love and support and encouragement in order to be able to be in a position like I am right now and standing in front of you. And that's not something I take lightly. And so the family that I have extends well beyond just like the parents who raised me. Because it's like if I look at like what family does for other people, it's like they feel supported and encouraged. And the people who have supported and encouraged me more than anybody in this world are those two people sitting over there. If I look over there, I will cry. So they're in that general direction. All right. Which one? So then I actually realized, well, what do I really, really care about? Fitness, for sure. Love working out. Don't compete. I just like exercising and eating food, which like you do that long enough, you get really big. And the people ask you, it's like, what are you gonna do? I was like, keep doing that? I don't know. And so the fitness aspect is kind of like, I will just say this. The thing that fitness does for me is it helps me maintain consistent habits that help me be healthy. And so it's like if I think about like a workout, it's like I will do things to not be sore for the workout, which is like sleep right, drink water, eat right, etc. And so that, like, I just recommend you find a fitness routine or a health routine, sport, whatever, that you can just do, and that you like doing, and that you will do. And that's like, just do that and we can talk. Like, it's really not more to it than that. So I'll move on from that point. The thing that I realized about myself going through this journey of like making money, trying to support people, educate people, etc., is how important my faith was to me. And faith to me is not religious by any connotation, but it is just having faith in myself and faith in other people and faith in humanity and faith in people that I work with and encouraging them and just trusting the fact that like you can do more smart things than you do stupid things, and if you do that long enough, you will be okay. And I really mean that. And so in going through the past 4 years of work and realizing that like money is not the thing for me, it's really just like supporting people, helping people realize like who they can be, what they can become. And through that, I came to the realization that the thing that gives me the most meaning in life, like capital M meaning, is being useful and doing it often and doing it well. And so the more useful I am to other people, and the better that I do it, and the more often that I do it, the more that I feel like I have meaning in that moment. And so right now, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to cook for dinner. It's like, I don't know anything that's going to happen next week because it's like I'm so in the moment focused on you guys. And that, to me, is what this whole thing's about. So the next slide, let's keep me on track. Yeah, I fucking knew I wrote it down. All right. I get the most meaning out of life by doing useful things often and well. So here's what I learned. Here's what I learned from a tactical approach that'll help you guys. And these slides, the only thing that I wrote down on these slides are things that you can actually take away. So I'm gonna blab, but these are the main takeaway points. So as Sean was saying yesterday, people will either avoid pain or seek pleasure. And so when we think about that, it's like, well, knowing that and knowing where I needed to go and what I needed to do to get there, I just had to make my environment the least amount of painful as possible and the most amount of rewarding as possible. And that honestly just came down to tracking progress. Because in making progress, we get rewarded through seeing that progress occur. And so step number one is obviously just to write the thing down. And so that was where my journaling routine came in. So anybody who was here last year, that was the only thing that I spoke of, was that consistently rewarding yourself for doing the right thing so that you know when you do the right thing matters a lot. A ton. And so when we think about avoiding pain, we will always default to the thing that we will find the most comfort in. And so when we think about cold calls, when we think about sales, when we think about operating a business, we look for the easy way. And we look for the thing, the secret, the thing that will cause us the least amount of pain possible. When the solution isn't to look for something that doesn't cause pain, it's to realize that the thing that you need to do is rewarding. And so one way that you can break this down is if you were to do 100 prospect dials, how much do you think each one of those dials would make you? Just guess. In a monetary value. If you did 100 dials, at the end of those 100 dials, how much money would you make? $3,800. $3,800, okay, good. Anybody else? 80 a call, okay, what else? $1 million? Hell yeah, all right, nice. So I just look at that of I think Scott got the closest answer, but if you do not know the specific number of each call that you do and how rewarding that is to you and how much that pays you long term, that's really hard to keep going. And so then the only stimulus that you get from your environment is no. But if I get no, all right, I just made $20. For real though, that's what it takes. And so tracking and identifying the outcome and how long, and the day-to-day actions to get to that outcome and how those day-to-day actions can become rewarding, that's the secret. I know I said there wasn't one, but there is. So the secret being rewarding yourself for the daily activities and the annoying, painful stuff to get to where you want to go. So it's the same idea with if you can attribute a monetary value to the things that you need to do, and then when you do them, you realize that you just cashed in $20, or you just cashed in $10, or you just cashed in $50. And if you do that long enough, well, it's if I just made $10 today, I'll make $500. Really good way to think about it. And so the way that I have, or the way that I coach the coaches over there is, we would have, sorry, one sec. We would, yeah, go for it.
What I learned a long time ago is 9 no's to 1 yes. So you just keep going. It's like a number game.
Nice.
So yeah, if you want those no's, because that gets you closer to the yes.
It sure does.
Sometimes, and a lot of us doing the dialing today, when I got through, I had a good ratio of closing.
Nice.
Good for a screen pass, but you know what I mean? So,
Perfect. And then 9 to 1, then you can just improve the efficiency on that metric, which is great. And so one thing that I will train the coaches on is figure out these annoying activities that you have to do, like getting people to show up, sending follow-up emails, doing this. Figure out how much each one of those things is worth to you. Because if you confirm an appointment, that's worth an extra $170, and it takes you 10 minutes. And so it's your hourly rate on that's $750. Right. And so then these annoying things become less annoying because you can realize that, like, oh, this is leading me closer and closer to the life that I want. And the more that you can realize that the things that you're doing day to day are leading you towards the life that you want, you pull that life into the future and you live it today, number one, and you also increase your likelihood of obtaining that thing. And so the more that you can structure your numbers of like 10 screencasts per day, if I do one, I make $40. If I do 10, I make 400. If over the course of the week, I do 10 a day, I'm at 50. What's the likelihood that if you guys do 50 screencasts, you will land a high quality customer? Pretty high, right? But the problem is doing it. And the reason why we don't do it is because the pain of no, or the pain of uncertainty of like, what if they're mean? And so I would love to just like, real quick, what is the worst thing that could happen if you make a prospect dial? They cuss you out, okay. They say no? Okay. Find your address, hunt you down, okay. Bingo. Yes. And so that, all of this language just refers to the fact of like, how can I make no's rewarding? And so if we actually think about like the tail end, like the worst case scenario, they hang up. And then it's actually a benefit if you really think about it, because they probably weren't going to buy anyways. Nice. Okay, cool. We're making progress. So another thing is that human beings will only ever behave one of two reasons: for themselves, for somebody else. Give me anything that anybody does, it falls under one of these two categories. It either helps themselves or it helps somebody else. Solves a problem for somebody else, fills a desire, or helps themselves, or it helps themselves fulfill a desire. So we look at that of like, okay, people are going to behave for themselves or for other people. How do most people behave most of the time? For themselves. How do some people behave some of the time? Also for themselves. So is there any way to measure it? No. So what's the best way to solve that problem? Just ask them. Just be like, hey, what problem are you trying to solve? Nice. Is that to help you or your customers? Literally just identifying, what are we doing right now? Are we running away from something, or are we running towards something? Or are you sitting still? Nobody's ever sitting still. Those people exist in Tibetan monk land. So when we look at business as a whole, if the business is not profitable, what do they need to do? Become profitable. They solve a problem. If the business is profitable, what do they need to do? Increase. Fulfill a goal. And so my first question on every coaching call, sales call, everything, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to solve a problem, fulfill a need? It's like, can I just ask them? It's like, totally. Watch what happens. They'll answer it 100% of the time. And so, and if they don't know the answer, then you just help them think through it, which is also a great responsibility that you guys can have. And so the main takeaway that I learned from this is if I only have 4 things that somebody can be doing at any given time, it simplifies life to one of 4 quadrants. My life and anybody else's. And then when you factor in the 6 human needs, and you think about, well, contribution, connection, and what? Variety. So contribution and connection are service to other people. Growth and significance are things for yourself. Variety and certainty they're just going to happen anyways. It's like you always want something, and then you always want some of something. And so when you look at growth and significance, you're growing to make yourself better, or you're hoping that somebody sees that you're growing and gives you a high five. You look at contribution and connection, it's like you're trying to help somebody else. And so it's once again, it falls in this category of power and service. And so I just want to know at any given point, is this for you or somebody else? And a lot of people will act for other people first. It's like, I really, really want to do this for somebody else. So if we know that we're service-driven, then we can also know that we can attach our goals to other people, and it increases the likelihood that we get there. So when I wrote out my goals, none of them were for me. The car was actually for my partner at the time. The house that I bought was for my parents. Obviously, I bought their house. And that was the driving factor to get me to where I wanted to go. For them. And so if I know about myself that I'm here to help others, then I can get myself to do that. Like, do the daily things. And so I think a lot of people in here, if I were to take a guess, are not here for the Lamborghini. I don't think we're here for the Rolex. I think as soon as you realize that like you're not in a position in which you can serve the other people in your life that you love a lot, you realize that you had to pivot. You had to change that life that you were living. And so when you answer the question, it's like, what do I want? What am I going for, etc. I'm sure a lot of you realize that like, I'm doing this for somebody else. I'm doing this to help this person. One of our coaches, Sue, God love the man. Dude hops on. I was like, so what's your goal? It's like, I want to retire my dad. He's 19. I was like, good God. We have another coach. He didn't make it today, but his name's Tillman. And he has a nonprofit called Phenomenal Fatherhood. And when I interviewed him, I was like, so what's the goal? He was like, honestly, I just want to help dads be better. I was like, hired. He's like, I don't have a sales background. I was like, yeah, sure, well, I'll teach you. Like, no problem. And so when we look at how much we are willing to do for other people, we can use that. And so it's not a negative to put ourselves in a position of like, I'm here and I do things for other people and I don't put myself first. And the way that people say that is with like this distaste of like they're not enough to be treated in enough way. But in reality, it's like you do things for other people and that has gotten you this far. And that's not like, I'm sure you're all doing fine. Like in terms of, just for perspective, there's no other life on any other planet other than on this one. And so it's like, you're all doing just fine. Like Mars, like you're way ahead of Mars, I'll just say that. So I just want to encourage you guys to remember the fact that like, it is okay to be in a business for yourself to support other people. And when you took on entrepreneurship, that's effectively what you did. Because instead of supporting your boss, you support your customers. And instead of being attached to like pension plans and whatnot, you're now attached to payment plans and customer satisfaction. And so when you took on this responsibility of like, I'm taking my life into my own hands, it's like there's more to that sentence. It's like I'm taking my life into my own hands so that the people around me can have a better life. It's like 99% of what we do. And if you don't, that's fine. I'm not like shitting on you. It's like, great, go get the Lamborghini. It's like, I'll help you do that too. Like, whatever. And so the last thing, before I move on, is sales and coaching and ultimately just like being a good person comes down to being able to understand where people fall on the spectrum. And if somebody hops on with me and they just start blabbering, it's always just, okay, what are we trying to do? What problem needs solving right now? And so if you find that you're getting into this spiral of like, I don't know what's going on, there's a problem. There's something that's not being satisfied. And the solution is often just doing things for other people. And so I'll share another story about one of my coaches, Lisa, who went through some of the most horrific health complications that any human being has ever had to go through in this country. And in spite of that, still showed up for other people. Still took calls, still encouraged other people, still was there to support her family, still was there to support her friends. And then, like one day out of recovery, starts giving money to everybody. It's like homeless people on the street, people in the grocery store, paying for people's coffees, just because that service is something that's so ingrained within her, of like being there for other people. So, understanding this and understanding people's motivations, and if you hop onto a business owner and you're like, God, wouldn't it be nice for you to grow this business so you could get a Rolex? It's just not gonna land. Because like at the end of the day, we all poop. We all had parents. We all have people that care for us and we care for. And when people say like this term of like authentic sales, it's like it really just means understanding that you're talking to another human being and that human being has problems and is likely just doing their fucking best. Like they took over their dad's business and now they're just showing up and trying. And so if we're in the position where we're trying to sell and like Josh said, like be their hero, we've taken the wrong approach, in my opinion. And so I always love taking the approach of like, look, you're gonna be fine without me, but with me, pretty sure I can help you out. And so that's where I want you guys to focus on your sales philosophy, because I know that a lot of us have this hard time getting over this fence of like, I have to call this person. We have these have to and must and should. It's like, and then when we don't, we feel guilty about it. And then that guilt proceeds into the next day. And because we feel guilty, we don't feel motivated. And because we don't feel motivated, we don't make more calls. Relatable? Thanks, I've been there. Not my first time. So when we are in this position of like, the reward for our activities is so far away, so far in the future, and we feel so punished in the moment, it's really hard to keep going. And that punishment keeps occurring because of the uncertainty and feeling like we're not good enough and we're not providing value. If all you did was 10 outbound dials a day to prospects who are business owners, and you just open with like, hey, I know you're doing great, I'm just curious, is there anything that like you could be doing better? And how can I help you with that? Just that one question of like, is there anything that could be better? Or is there anything that I can help you improve? You don't need me, but I know you got a whole bunch of other things that you're focused on. And I know that you got into this business to do a whole bunch of bigger problems. And so if we take those bigger problems, we put them to the side, this free time that you would now have, if you were not focused on your marketing and acquiring new customers, what would you do with that time? I would spend it with my kids. And I know that they probably started a business so that they could have more time with their kids. And I know that they're probably killing them to not spend time with their kids. And instead, they don't have enough new leads to supply their income. They can't scale, they can't grow, they can't have an operational business, and because of that, they can't spend time with their kids. So what is the actual need that I'm solving for? Is it more leads? No, it's never more leads. Everybody wants more leads because more leads leads to, oh, that was good. That was a good play on words. More leads leads to having more time, more freedom. More sales for you guys means what? More time, more freedom. If you got $6,000 coming in recurring every month because you made 120 prospect dials, 160 of them turned into webcasts, well, my goodness. That asset that you just acquired is now going to pay you month over month. So I just know that if you address these motivations correctly, you have a really, really high probability of being able to help people on a deeper level and in the way that they want to be helped. Because if I just say, like, I'm here to help you make more money, but I don't care what you do with it, it's like that's just not going to land. So, next point, understanding their goal or their problem. The point here is asking them questions to figure out what the heck's going on. Like, if you got to where you would like to be, what happens? And so Josh asked it yesterday, who wants to make 30 grand a month? And a lot of people wooed. Yeah, nice. And so that 30 grand a month, what occurs? What are you then allowed to do? It's like, first thing, most times people say, give money to this person, support this person. have more time doing this thing. Go to the beach with this person. Very rarely is it, yeah, I want to sit in my Lamborghini and, well, I don't know, can't go anywhere. Anyway, boggles my mind. So when we understand people's goals, and we understand the problems that we're trying to solve, number one is most people don't even communicate this to another human being, which is why I always feel so grateful to be have this opportunity to be with you guys, and understand what you want and understand your goals. And the biggest takeaway that I got is how everybody who stood on this stage, how this stage was theirs. And how it was that moment of this is what I'm going for. And this is who I'm becoming. And so if I can understand that as a person who is trying to help you, rather than a salesperson, then I can make sure that you do the right things. The next thing is you want to make sure that your product is tailored to that need specifically. So if I say, I'm going to get you more leads, and they say, I really just want more time, their next natural response to that is going to be, how am I going to call all these people if all I wanted was more time? And so you once again have to think about, well, this is going to occur, and then once you have these many customers, you just outsource your sales. Or you just have the business that you wanted to have in the first place. And so there's always the consequence to fulfilling the need. And so understanding how once you fulfill the need, once you fulfill the problem, once you obtain the goal, Alex, can you go tell Xander to stop playing what is he doing? Is he playing cornhole? Is he playing cornhole? Fine. As long as there's a baby involved, that's fine. He's like, Steve, I'm really excited to learn from you. So once you can understand the person's problem, you can tailor the product to what their needs are. And so this is where it comes in your explanation of what you will do for them. And so the two concepts that we've gone through so far is understand what the heck's going on, so that when you explain what's going on, it makes sense to them. The next thing is educate them on the solution. Once again, 4 principles of a sales call. So once you have an understanding of what they need, and you can customize what you do to that thing, you want to educate them with certainty so that you make sure that they also make a logical decision, and a rational one. And so I'll define what a rational decision is in a moment. I'm 90% sure it's my next slide. And then encourage rational thinking. And so once you have told them, hey, this is all the things I'm going to do for you, if all these things happen, would this make your life easier? Does this make sense that this would help you get to your goal? Okay, and has any of this happened before where it's that if this occurred, your life would be easier? And is this useful for you? And so if we check those boxes, then we know that they're making a rational decision that fulfills their emotional need, which is really cool. And that's 10 out of 10. It's if you do that, I think you've really helped somebody. If you understand what somebody wants, why they want it, and then you give them that thing in a way that makes sense to them, and you know that it'll help them, and they know that it'll help them, it's it checks all the boxes. And it's not this is why other sales training bothers me, where it's you just gotta get in there and keep making dials and, don't take no for an answer and ABCs and pros and cons lists. Dude, does it make sense? Do you know that? And then will it help you? Really it. So there's 3, this is where I was gonna get, by the way, I'm a special snowflake when it comes to I was gonna have an iPad with a pen, whole thing. It didn't end up working, so we're gonna stay on the slide. I'm gonna talk for a second. If there's any questions, just raise your hand. So there's 3 concepts that I teach, and 3 traits that if somebody who is in a position of selling something can help somebody else buy that thing. So 3 traits. Number 1 is the ability to understand, also to display empathy. Point number one. So if you're able to understand through active listening, through empathy, through guiding, you're really, really able to get that person to trust you, and you're really able to get that person to display competency. It's like, can I actually do this? It's like, totally, dude. Because you've understood their goals, you've understood what they need, how they can get there. And so the first thing that I go through with all sales training, anytime that I onboard somebody, is how's your active listening? How are you going to display empathy? And so, like, if your best friend came up to you and said, man, I had a hard day, and you respond with, bruh, up top. Tough to be that one. Tough to have that guy as your friend. And so the first test is like, do you display empathy? And do you display active listening skills in your day-to-day? And that's really, really powerful when it comes to being able to have somebody tell you what they're struggling with, what problems they have, and what goals they have. And if you're just like not landing with it, like if somebody tells, what's your goal? Lame. See, that didn't feel good. But dude, seriously, that's badass. That actually hurt my heart to respond with that as like a part. Like I'm gonna come down there and give you a hug, honestly. How old's your mom?
She turned 72.
Oh, damn.
All right, just so you guys know, I custom
I was
made
gonna
this with shit I was throwing away at the house. It's a ClickFunnels award for 2 figures, by the way.
Yeah. So retire mom. Dude, that's awesome. How long have you wanted to retire your mom for?
I'm not gonna lie, no filter. I was the biggest piece of shit while growing up.
Yeah.
I'm one of 9, and just recently, yesterday, I was just telling these 2 couples that it took me 13 years to figure out my why in life.
Damn.
When I was 17, I deployed to Iraq for 16 months. I got shot at every day, and I came back to my family and lost all my family because I was different. Being the youngest of 9, everyone expected me to either be an engineer or a doctor. I chose to join the military. Again, it's just me being super competitive and the biggest piece of shit, not listening to anybody.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, I figured out that I've been just filling everybody else's shoes except for mine. Never got a chance to fill in who I was. Never got I guess, it's hard for me to put it. Never really thought about having or creating a path for myself. It's always, my parents expect me to do this. My brother joined the military, and I'm going to join because he did it.
Yeah.
So just to make him proud of me. When I stayed in, after 7 years of active duty, I became a special agent because the government liked my ability to perform their tasks and their duties. And just after realizing that this wasn't the path for me, it took me until yesterday through Josh's 4Fs that I haven't been living my life. And my mom and dad fought in the Vietnam War to give me the ability to have my own life. But a week before we came here, my mom got into a very bad car accident, and she nearly passed away, being 72. So it was a good wake-up reminder that I still tell myself today that I'm the biggest piece of shit because I haven't done anything yet.
Dude,
Yeah, so
tough.
just dirty government corporate dog with nothing to give my mom.
Damn. Okay, we're gonna pause from this shit for a second. I just want to say, I'm really glad it didn't take you 30 years. I'm really glad it only took you 13. And I'm also really glad that you're in a position in which you realize that 0 to 1 is the hardest step. And before I move on, is there anything else that you want to go over?
I'm taught to never cry or express myself, so I'm sorry for breaking character. It really has been a long time since I wanted to be, like I told them, my goofy self before I deployed.
Yeah.
But maybe I did die over the button.
Well,
So I've always been trying to fill other people's shoes and their standards.
yeah.
Never gave the time to think about mine. So, me almost losing my mother and yesterday's presentation really allowed me to think and really reflect. So I went through all sorts of shit, almost losing my life, employment, and I made some terrible decisions. I just want to find something that I can actually do, something I love, and just take my mom with whatever time I have left.
You're the man. Like, you're the fucking man. You're. So, I have great news. That big smile is about the goofiest smile I've ever seen. So I don't think you lost that. So that's good. And the fact that it only took you 13 years is a whole lot better than it taking 30, dude. And it's a whole lot better that she's still here. You got this, man. Like, if you apologize one more time, this hug I'm about to give you is going to turn into a slap. So, do you feel confident walking away from today in terms of a plan that you need to do in order to make this happen? Good. So, my last question. Do pieces of shit have plans? So are you a piece of shit? Damn right. Something, money, sales. There's a couple Lamborghini jokes. I don't know where I'm at. Okay, moving on. So, I'll finish this one. So the empathy that is expressed and showing active listening, that goes a really long way in terms of understanding what people want and how people can get there. And just giving people space and making sure that they feel fucking heard. Like, if you can just give somebody space to feel heard, they'll get there on their own. Most times. And as Josh said, like, everybody just wants to be the hero of their own movie. So I was watching Top Gun. And it's right before he's about to go on the mission. Maverick, like the best movie. And it's right before he's about to go on the mission, and his beautiful girl is talking to him, and he's like, you can do this. He's like, I don't know if I can do this. He's like, you can do this. It's like she's not taking away from him being the hero. She's encouraging him to be the hero of the movie. And so that's how I like to carry myself anyways. It's like my movies, like, I don't even know what I would call it. But my movie matters far less to me than being the observer of somebody else's movie. Like, it's so fun to watch Kyle just like dominate life. It's so cool to watch Tony just have the best time. It's so cool to see the amount of growth that Monty has had. Like, that is what gets me going. And so that, I'm sure it's what gets you guys going too. Like, I don't think I'm special. So displaying empathy opens that door to being able to understand where people see their own self-efficacy and see their own competency. Like, can I do the things that you're asking of me? And if I did, what would I do with it? The next thing is just straight up encouragement. And once you're in this position of like, you understand what people need, you can encourage them on the way to get where they want to go. And I just think encouragement, like an ounce, holy crap, this is where I get emotional. People need a fucking ounce of encouragement to keep going, to do anything. An ounce. And if you see somebody, a small business owner, which is who we work with, who we help, if you see them doing their best, say, hey, you got this. You can keep going. You're doing great. You're on the right track. I know this is hard, but that's normal. You're doing your best. An ounce of encouragement goes such a long way. And that's the second thing that I wanted to go through. The last thing is just pure education. An education surrounding how it is that you're going to help them do the thing that they're looking to do. Hey, my service will provide you with these 3 things. These 3 things can produce these 3 outcomes. These 3 outcomes will help you do these 3 things in your own life. Feature, logical benefit, emotional benefit. Write that one down. You have the feature, logical benefit, emotional benefit. Yep, for sure. Feature, hey, this thing, logical benefit, will help you save time so that you can spend that time with a loved one. Hey, this thing will solve this problem so that you can keep more of your hair. Works great, by the way. And so the takeaways I've already put up here, you guys could take a photo of it. I should have written that one down. I apologize for not. It's the feature, so what it is, what the thing is, logical benefit, what that thing does, and then emotional benefit, what that thing does for them. Cool? All right, sounds good. So I talked to you about rational thinking. I will spend some time on this. And the rational thinking process that I've been taught by my coach and mentor, or one of my mentors, is Dr. Trevor Kashey. And he studied this guy named Dr. Albert Ellis. And this comes back to like being able to identify, and Dr. Albert Ellis studied the Stoics. And so we get a couple filters, and then we get to me, and then you get to you guys. And so the principle of it is how much control words have over our emotions and our state. And so we have these shoulds, musts, have-tos, needs. We have these demands that we put over ourselves. And so what's on the screen, I'll pause for a second. This is where I would have like drawn on the whiteboard. I apologize once again. So these demands that we put on ourselves of like, I have to make these phone calls. I should be making these dials. And if I don't, I'm a piece of crap. And this piece of crap doesn't do anything. And we get just despair. And when we use words like that, and we put demands on ourselves, we imply that there's an or else. I have to do this or else I'm not enough. I have to do this or else this occurs. I have to do this or else I'm not going to fulfill what I need. I have to do this or I'm bad. And when we put ourselves in this position of have to, must, shoulds, whatever, it immediately sets us up for answering these or elses. And so in terms of identifying irrational thinking is your first step to thinking rationally. And so the situation that will occur is not, it's rarely ever the issue. It's our opinion about the situation where the issue lies. So I use this phone example of like, what's the worst that could happen? They hang up, they go, no. Well, I could look at that as be like, God, I'm awful at running a business. I'm going to go back to serving frozen yogurt. Or I look at this and I go, great, that guy just saved me 15 minutes. I can move on to the next person. And so we can just take our opinion based off of the situation and we can apply and frame either a positive frame on it or at least a rational one. And when we have more rational thinking, we act more rationally. Said another way, we don't act like a silly goose. I hate it when I'm a silly goose. Because when you're a silly goose don't make money. That's the thing. I mean, you got to make money to have more time. You guys know the thing. So when you're in a position of you realize that you're thinking irrationally, it becomes very difficult to pull yourself out of that. And so one thing that I would encourage everybody to do is identify your irrational thinking, your irrational thoughts. This is an exercise that takes about 30 minutes, so we're not going to do it together. But I would love if you put it in your calendar as an action item that you do this week. And what's really interesting is the first time I did this exercise, I thought I was going to have like 50 to 1,000 irrational thoughts. I had like 6. And it's really just the same 6 things. Because when you think about it, your day-to-day doesn't deviate a whole lot. And when it doesn't deviate a ton, you tend to ruminate and respond to these individual situations differently, but still negatively. And so it's like you have like a subset of like 6 tasks that you do or should be doing, and if you do not do them, you feel like you act like a silly goose, and you respond emotionally, and you respond irrationally. And so when you think about those 6 things and what needs to occur, and you respond to them irrationally, you set yourself up for double trouble of guilt and shame of like, oh, I really should be doing this and I'm not enough and I hate it. Blah. And so the first step in having awareness surrounding this is just to identify and write down, how do you think irrationally on a day-to-day level? Like, what situations occur in which you put demands on yourself or you dramatize the situation? And dramatization just means like, oh, this always happens. Things never go my way. Everybody else is lucky except for me. Can't believe it. That's dramatization. Notice the hands. The next one is just being down on yourself. Like, I'm not enough. I'm no good at this. This is no fun. Can't do it, whatever. Well, the inverse of that is just identifying the repetitions that you have required, or the repetitions that you have, versus the repetitions required to maintain an income from that thing. So this is why 0 to 1 is so hard. Because 0 to 1, you have no reinforcement from your environment, meaning everything about the skill that you're learning is punishing. The easiest example for this is learning the violin. If you just pretend that sales is just like learning the violin, great. Because everything sounds terrible when you learn the violin. It's like, whatever, not fun. And so when you think about sales, it's the same way as like learning a violin. Eventually, if you did the violin enough, it would be unreasonable for you to be bad at it. It'd be unreasonable for you to not be able to play Wonderwall. That one was for me. That joke was for me. Okay. So it would be unreasonable for you to continue to be bad at sales if you put in the volume, which is, again, why 0 to 1 is so difficult. Because everything is punishing. The working yourself up, the courage to do the dials, the doing the dials, the hitting the buttons, the putting it in the system, the doing the follow-up, the not making any money from it. But the only solution is to get past the 1 and to land the first person. And that's why sales is the hardest 0 to 1, but the fastest 1 to 10. Because as soon as you get rewarded from making a sale, what do you want? Another sale. Immediately. And when you are in a position in which you're able to repeat that and get rewarded and get rewarded and get rewarded, well, then you have a skill. Just like basketball. It's like your coach will instruct you on how to play basketball. Okay, I'm going to use hockey. I don't know where I was going with that. It's like your coach will instruct you on how to play hockey. It's like, okay, bend at the hips, hold the stick like this, lean like this, and then twist. And then until you score, the only source of reinforcement that you have is the coach. It's like, hey, that looks good. Okay, you're doing this right. This is looking good. Okay, that's good. Okay, I know that one didn't go in, but you're on the right track. And that's the benefit of having somebody who monitors your sales calls, somebody who can tell you when you're on the right track. Because when you get no result and you get zero reinforcement from the environment, you start to make shit up. Like, I'm not wearing my closing socks today. Didn't do my cold plunge this morning. That's why I didn't make any money. When in reality, it's like you just don't know what's going on because you haven't been reinforced from the environment, and therefore it has not yet become a skill. And so what I really want to do, like what my goal is in this very short life that we have, is to turn rational thinking, rational decision making, and having one person use empathy, encouragement, and education to help another person make a rational decision. And I think that a lot of people struggle to make rational decisions because they don't think rationally. And it's really hard to do so. And I don't think that it's easy to be in a position to ask somebody to think rationally. And that's why I said it's going to take you guys 30 minutes. Write this down. And so that's my goal, is to help people make rational decisions that benefit them in the long term. So what is a rational decision? Does this thing make sense? Like, straight up, does this pass the first initial gut check of like, does this make sense? So for us, for example, does it make sense that small business owners need leads? Yes. Right. 100%. How do I know that? Well, if they don't have leads, they don't make any money. Businesses need money to stay open. So if I learn this skill on how to help business owners make or generate leads, will that help me? Like, is that a skill people would pay for? Yeah, for sure. Like, we know that. And so that looks like a very rational decision of like, we know that this checks these 3 boxes. Now, the same thing for you guys of like, hey, I'm going to help you generate more leads. Does that make sense to you? And I use a small business owner, like carpet cleaner, as an example. If I help you get more carpet cleaning customers, would that help you? Yeah, of course. It's like, how do you know that? It's like, well, I have a huge gap in my calendar, 4 days a week. I only work 1 day a week, and I'm bleeding money. It's like, okay, so if we made you more money, this would help? It would solve this issue of you bleeding money? Yeah, of course. So that is how I like to structure my sales calls and helping people buy things. And there's 2 word associations that I really wanted to stress with you guys, that if all you did was walk away from today with this, I feel like I've done a good job. And that's number 1, is that like, we're not selling things. We're really not. We're helping people buy something that will help them. Because if you sell something, there's this connotation of like, you give them something they don't need. Because nobody likes being sold anything. But people sure do like buying stuff. I, for one, well, I need a new pair of shoes, but that's besides the point. I like buying stuff. I don't like being sold. I really don't like bad sales reps. And so the sales tactics that like a lot of people do this, urgency, all this nonsense. It's like you help people buy things that will help them. So the argument that you have to create with this person is, how does your thing help them? And if that person and you together create an argument sufficient enough that this will help them, and it's something that will benefit them in the long term, then both of you have acted rationally. And I think a big connotation that people have surrounding sales is it's negative, it's manipulative. And like, how could you not think that when The Wolf of Wall Street came out? It's like, you know what he did? He was lying. Like, he wasn't selling anything. And so when you look at sales and people who teach it, they literally talk about like selling things to people. It's like, buy this or not, but we both know it's going to help you. That's the frame. The second thing, if you take the word cold call and just call that prospect dialing, you will do the thing far more often. Because how many of you have an association to prospect dialing? 0. I literally just made it up. Nobody's ever heard of that before. But cold calling, you're like, there's these learned associations that you have to when people have cold called you. Oh yeah, I got this cold caller, hung up on him. Oh, this cold caller called me in the middle of dinner. Can't believe it. Unreal. Nobody's ever got mad at a prospect dial. Just saying. And so if you're in this position where it's like, I don't want to do cold calls, it's like, I bet you haven't tried prospect dialing. Totally different. And so like just your learned associations can contribute to how irrational you behave. Because you have associations to these words, and words mean stuff, and words cause emotions. And then if I use the wrong words, I do the wrong stuff. And I can hate doing the wrong stuff. Like I really dislike not doing something because I have a negative association to a word. And so it's like, well, I'll just change the word. Cool. So we're going to move on. I know that I'm taking up a ton of time, but I'm not even sorry. So, what? Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about is deciding versus committing. So selling something to somebody is helping them decide. Once again, I can decide to jump off the stage right now and do 20 jumping jacks. Nothing has occurred. And until you make a commitment, just like I did, when I realized that enough was enough and I'm not willing to have $120,000 owed to other people, until you make that commitment, until you actually put down, this is what I'm going to do at this time, and I'm going to say no to everything else. I'm going to do these 4 things, and when I do, I'm going to get this outcome. And when you commit looks a whole lot different than decide. And so once you get more immersed into the sales process, I know we vary a lot in terms of where we're at with sales. And I'm sure that there's a lot of you who have called prospects and it's like, yeah, I'm 100% in. I really want to do this. I'm super sold. Just give me a little bit of time. Well, what's occurred is they're sold, but there's no commitment. And so once you have the selling done of like, yes, this makes sense, this will help me, and I have evidence to support it, they have now become sold. Committing is when it comes to like the negotiation of the terms and structuring the terms in a way that benefits them now and later. And so the terms of the agreement is what will ultimately help somebody commit in a way that benefits them now and later. And so maybe there's a vacation that they have to do in 2 weeks, or they just lost a salesperson, or like it's a bad time of the year, or whatever. Well, then the commitment part that you negotiate with them occurs at this point. And so committing, once again, only ever happens when they go, all right, I'm in, contract signed, money sent. That is what committing is from a business owner. And that is the ultimate part of like what people call closing. It's like objection overcomes. It's like really it's just helping people commit. And when the reason why people don't commit, nervousness, fear, uncertainty, I don't know what's going to happen, obviously. And so that's just reminding them of how they've made a rational decision and how that rational decision will benefit them. And how ultimately, the more they've acted rationally in the past, how that has benefited them and how that will continue to benefit them. And so I'll go into more detail in this in a little bit. It's kind of a longer topic when it comes to like objections and overcomes and whatnot. But realistically, there's only 3 things that people will ever say, or they fall into 3 categories of like either they don't have the competency to do it, meaning they don't have the time, the resources, the support from a spouse. They cannot complete the product requirements that you ask for. It's like somebody couldn't open a Gmail and send you an email. That would be a sign of a lack of competency. Or somebody can't afford your service. It's a sign of a lack of competency. And so if we have a competency argument or overcome that we need to do, it's just understanding where they're at and getting the data. And so if somebody says it's like, I can't do it, there's no way. All we do is we ask for data. It's like, how do you know that? Because I can't do it, there's no way. Does that sound like a rational sentence? By no definition does it, in my opinion. And so then we look at how else can we help this person get committed? Well, maybe they're just scared, like they're nervous. Well, we know that if they have enough confidence, that'll likely be reduced. We also know that with enough encouragement, we can increase their level of confidence. And so that's why, like I said at the beginning, the 3 things that I care about in traits of salespeople: empathy, encouragement, and the ability to educate. And so if somebody's at like right there, I really, really want to do it, they just might need a little bit of a, nah, you got this. And then the last thing is educating them on how your product will help them, how your service will help them. So I want to remind everybody that business ownership is service. And we've talked about this one sentence. Like, I'm really good at giving to others, but not myself. And I use this as a negative. And this sounds like a very irrational sentence. But in giving to others, I give to myself. And when I give to others, I get more joy. And in putting my business first, that business will allow many people to get impacted. And so it's not like you now are an entrepreneur, therefore you're an asshole. It's like you're an entrepreneur, therefore you signed up for a life of service. And when you sign up for a life of service, God bless you. Like, truly. Like, well done. Thank you for doing that. And so the thing that you sacrifice when you leave your 9-to-5, when you leave a corporation, a government plan, whatever, the thing that you give up in exchange for freedom is you give up the certainty. You give up the 9-to-5, you give up the pension, you give the consistent paycheck, you give up the salary, whatever. That's like you didn't really give it up. Because what was happening is you just outsourced that to somebody else. Because all businesses are run by one person at the very end. Like, sure, there's a board, but there's always a business owner. And you guys are now just the business owner. And so rather than like you gave it up, it was just something you outsourced that you now have. And so when you now take something that you were outsourcing and it's now 100% in your responsibility, that's empowering. I gave up my 9-to-5, I gave up my pension so that I could have 100% control and way more upside. And I get to be the one who creates jobs for other people. And that makes me feel really good. So to recap, in helping other people obtain their goals, I found my purpose. That purpose has provided me with enough money. Like, it really just it didn't do anything for me in the first place other than give me like a measuring stick. And then I realized that I was like,